At 84 years old, Pastor John Hagee, one of the most powerful and outspoken evangelical leaders in America, has just revealed something no one ever expected. For decades, his fiery sermons, fearless political views, and unwavering faith have made him both admired and controversial. But now, in a moment of rare vulnerability, Pastor Hagee has admitted the truth about something he's kept buried for years, a truth that could completely redefine his legacy. From his humble beginnings in Texas to leading one of the largest churches in the world, this revelation has left both his supporters and critics in shock. What did Pastor Hagee finally confess after all these years? And how will this change how the world sees him? Stay tuned, because the truth behind this confession is deeper, more emotional, and far more powerful than anyone could have imagined. In America, few names in ministry spark as much admiration and debate as John Hagee, a man who has walked through triumphs, controversies, and deep personal trials. Hagee now stands at a crossroads that has left many wondering, what changed? What led this once unshakable preacher to a moment of such profound reflection? Is this a shift in belief, or the final chapter in a lifetime devoted to faith? Stay tuned, because we're uncovering the truth behind his shocking admission, from his humble beginnings to his rise as one of the most influential voices in modern Christianity. Born on April 12, 1940, in Baytown, Texas, John Hagee grew up surrounded by faith and family values. His father, William B. Hagee, was more than a preacher. He was a living example of commitment to God's work. John often recalls evenings when the family would gather around the Bible, not just reading its verses but living by them. Those quiet moments of devotion shaped the foundation of his character and planted the seeds of his lifelong calling. From that small-town upbringing, a fire began to grow inside him, a passion for ministry, a voice for conviction, and a drive to serve. That young boy from Baytown could never have imagined that one day his faith would reach beyond his hometown, to touch hearts across the entire world. In today's America, the idea of meekness might sound outdated, even absurd, in a generation driven by power, fame, and noise. But for John Hagee, meekness wasn't weakness. It was strength under control, a quiet conviction that would guide him from his earliest days in Texas to the height of his global ministry. John's journey began in the classrooms of his hometown, where his sharp intellect and unwavering determination quickly set him apart. Even as a young man, he carried a sense of purpose that seemed far beyond his years. After graduating high school, he pursued higher education at Trinity University in San Antonio, earning a Bachelor of Science degree. But John wasn't done yet. Hungry for deeper understanding, he went on to achieve a master's degree in education from the University of North Texas. Those years weren't just about academics, they were about foundation. His education sharpened his mind, but it also strengthened his faith. The balance of intellect and belief gave Hagee the confidence to step boldly into the calling that had been stirring within him since childhood. Then came 1966, the turning point. That year, John Hagee founded a small church in San Antonio, unaware that this humble beginning would one day evolve into one of the most powerful ministries in America. It was the start of a journey that would inspire millions, spark movements, and challenge generations to see faith in a whole new light. The beginning of his career, a path marked by passion and vision. From a tiny initial following, he established a flourishing community through motivational speeches and unwavering leadership, founding with more than 22,000 members. Cornerstone Church would grow to become one of the biggest places of worship in the U.S. John Hagee Ministries is pleased to announce the birth of a vision that I have had for 50 years. In addition to leading his church, John Hagee founded John Hagee Ministries, an organization devoted to sharing the gospel through radio and television. His sermons are broadcast on hundreds of channels and radio stations, allowing his message to reach millions of people worldwide. He also funded Christians United for Israel. Cornerstone Church has a capacity of 5,400 people and serves as a cultural and educational hub. Hagee has had both great successes and significant challenges throughout his career, which has been marked by controversy. However, his unwavering commitment and deep belief have allowed him to persevere, and his influence has extended far beyond the pulpit, making him one of the most recognized voices in the Christian world. He is part of a movement that supports Israel, reflecting the strong connection between his faith and his political stance. His bold preaching and firm stance on conservative values have shaped his image as a strong-willed evangelist who refuses to back down, but his outspoken nature and firm opinions have frequently placed him at the center of heated debates. John Hagee has left a lasting legacy that continues to shape modern Christianity. He is more than just a pastor, he is also a political voice, a figure of prophecy, and key player in some of the most intense religious and social debates over the years. His interpretation of the Bible in relation to world events is one of the most contentious issues surrounding him. In his 2006 book Jerusalem Countdown, Hagee asserted that Iran would start a nuclear war, which he claimed was predicted by biblical prophecy. While many of his followers interpreted this as a divine warning to prepare for the end times, critics accused him of using scripture to incite fear and spread animosity toward Islamic nations, arguing that his words did more than just stir. Though he may have meant to honor Israel's founding, his remarks in 2008 caused a storm of controversy when he said that the Holocaust was part of God's plan to establish the nation of Israel. According to him, this tragic event led to global support for Israel's creation in 1948. Additionally, he said that the Holocaust was part of God's plan to establish the nation of Israel, which deepened international tensions. Beyond his opinions on international affairs, Hagee has also drawn harsh criticism from human rights activists and LGBTQ+ advocates because of his steadfast conservative views. He has been a vocal supporter of traditional marriage between a man and a woman, and the community found his statement extremely offensive because they felt it minimized the immense suffering of Holocaust victims. The fallout from this remark caused some of his closest allies to publicly distance themselves, harming his reputation and straining long-standing relationships. Is a target for social activists who see him as a representative of an antiquated far-right ideology that conflicts with today's changing societal norms. The impact of these controversies has been significant, as his strong remarks have cost him allies, with some separating themselves to avoid the controversy. He has openly opposed same-sex unions, believes abortion to be an unforgivable crime against humanity, and has not hesitated to speak out against women's rights organizations that support it. His reputation in religious and political circles has suffered a number of setbacks due to backlash associated with his name, but his loyal followers see these same controversies as a testament to his capacity as a fearless religious leader who is prepared to speak biblical truth even when it provokes the most severe criticism. However, beyond his fiery sermons and unwavering stance, is there a side of John Hagee that the public has never fully seen? His journey has been shaped not only by public battles, but also by deeply personal struggles that have attested his faith. What life events drove him to the edge, and what unseen hardships did he face away from the spotlight? John Hagee is renowned for founding one of the biggest churches in America, but even as he gained notoriety, he faced some of the most trying times in his life. These hardships tried his faith, his fortitude, and his identity as a leader. In 1975, John Hagee's marriage to Martha Downing ended when he went through a divorce. Divorce carried a heavy stigma at the time, especially for religious leaders who believed that ending a marriage could strip a pastor of his credibility, making it nearly impossible for him to regain the trust of his followers. This was not just a personal hardship, it was a serious blow to his standing in the community. Criticism came from all sides, including those within his own church. The backlash was so severe that it put his ministry on the verge of collapse. Hagee has frequently talked about how Diana Castro, his wife and closest ministry partner, became his greatest source of strength and encouragement. Her unwavering support helped him regain his confidence and continue his mission of spreading the gospel with Diana. By the time his son died, Hagee was able to move past the pain of his failed marriage and start a new life. He rebuilt his life despite the criticism and opposition. New chapter 1 that deepened his faith in God. But his personal struggles did not end there. He built Cornerstone Church. He built Cornerstone Church, which brought him success and a great deal of pressure, because he was responsible for leading a church with thousands of members and had high expectations. He had to maintain the image of a strong and unwavering spiritual leader in addition to delivering powerful messages from the pulpit. There were times when the weight of these expectations felt heavy. Hagee frequently reflects on the lessons he has learned from the trials he has faced, emphasizing that they have taught him the value of patience and humility. He has shared that during his most trying seasons, he came to understand that faith is not about having all the answers but about trusting God even when his plan is unclear. Despite the overwhelming challenges, however, he refused to let them break him and remained committed to his mission, determined to continue leading with faith and conviction. The pastors once authority, leading with faith and conviction. The pastor's once authoritative and shaky image has been replaced with one of vulnerability and genuineness, which has made him more relatable to his congregation. By sharing his past doubts and hardships, he reminds others that even spiritual leaders can be vulnerable. Struggles have not. Spiritual leaders can be vulnerable. Struggles have not only shaped him but also given him a greater sense of empathy for those who have faced similar pain. He no longer hesitates to discuss his past difficulties, choosing instead to share them openly in his sermons. Hagee is more than just a pastor. He is a man who has surmounted adversity and come out stronger in his walk with God. His personal trials are not just obstacles he has faced, they are evidence of his resilience and dedication to his faith. These experiences have shaped him into a figure of strength and an inspiration to millions of his loyal followers. Above all, though, he teaches that the key to overcoming any trial is to never lose faith in God. Place in the hearts of those who admire him. But something has changed. Was it the hardships he faced over the years, or did his faith develop in a way that no one anticipated? More importantly, what? In a way that no one anticipated? More importantly, what will this new revelation mean for the way that the world views John Hagee? What you are about to hear may reveal a side of him that few have ever seen during a Sunday service. Pastor Hagee's moment of truth earlier this year. Thousands of people gathered in the sanctuary that day, expecting another powerful sermon, full of confidence, conviction, and fiery energy, all hallmarks of John Hagee's usual style. But instead of his familiar commanding tone, his voice carried something different: quiet reflection and awe-inspiring words that left his congregation completely stunned. For decades, Hagee had been known for his bold and passionate preaching, standing as a pillar of evangelical Christianity. "I have spent my entire life seeking, studying, and interpreting the truth of the Bible, but today I wish to speak from my heart." Sometimes we do not immediately comprehend God's plans. There are moments when we must accept that some things are beyond human understanding. Hagee's words settled. Things are beyond human understanding. Hagee's words settled over the crowd, and the silence in the room grew as he began to speak. His vulnerability was a stark contrast to the unwavering certainty his followers had come to expect. For decades, his teachings were grounded in certainty, and his sermons provided clear, definitive explanations of Scripture, leaving little room for doubt. He had established a reputation as a preacher who provided answers rather than questions. But, as they absorbed his message, they realized that for a man who had spent years making direct connections between biblical prophecy and actual events with unwavering confidence, this was not just a simple statement, it was a revelation that carried deep personal and spiritual significance. Hagee acknowledged that his unrelenting quest for perfect knowledge had occasionally caused him to lose sight of something much larger, the vast, inexplicable mystery of faith itself. He went on, "I have spent years poring over every detail in the Bible, trying to explain and uncover every truth, but now I realize that faith is not always about authoritative prophets." Instead, he showed a more human side as a man of faith, grappling with the same uncertainties as those who sat before him. His voice carried the weight of decades spent in ministry, and his words struck a deep chord with many in the congregation. For some, this was a powerful and humble moment, an acknowledgement that faith does not require certainty, but rather the ability to trust in the unseen. One attendee later shared, "I have never felt so connected to my pastor." He said that sometimes the greatest expression of faith is in accepting the unknown. Faith means trusting that God knows and that trust is enough. It's normal for us to have doubts. That's what makes us human. However, not everyone reacted with the same fervor. Some felt uneasy about what they had just witnessed, while others saw it as a departure from the solid foundation they had relied on for years. His certainty had given them a sense of stability in an unpredictable world, and this change left them feeling uneasy. Some critics worry that his admission might erode the faith of those who had long relied on his steadfast interpretations. One thing was certain: John Hagee's words had provoked deep reflection. This was not just another sermon, it was a turning point that would leave lasting questions about faith, certainty, and the evolving journey of one of the most recognized voices in modern Christianity. For years, we looked to him for clarity, but now he's asking us to embrace uncertainty. Whether this is a difficult adjustment or a concerning shift in message, it's clear that his words had sparked deep reflection. For decades, Hagee had been considered a steadfast, unwavering figure in the field of Christian teachings, a man who preached with certainty, conviction, and a firm belief. However, his recent admission carried a significance that went far beyond the words he spoke. It was not just a moment of reflection or the confession of a man reconsidering his past beliefs. Rather, it was a revelation that signaled a profound transformation in his understanding of faith, understanding of scriptural authority. But as time went on, a change started to take shape, leading to his very public and personal admission that true faith is more about trusting in the vast, unfathomable mystery of God's plan than it is about knowing. For many of his followers, this realization struck an unexpected chord. It was not just an intellectual or theological shift, it was an emotional and spiritual awakening to hear a leader of such stature and experience acknowledge that faith is more about having all the answers and more about. Hagee's words seemed to serve as a message not only for his congregation but for all future generations of believers. It was a call to approach Scripture not as a strict doctrine that demands absolute certainty, but as a living, breathing testament that reminded us that even those who have dedicated their lives to teaching others about God are still students themselves, still learning, still growing, and still discovering the depths of their own spirituality. Invites introspection, investigation, and personal development. This change in viewpoint was not a rejection of his faith, but rather a strengthening of it. He was freed from the obligation to offer conclusive answers to all of life's questions and accepted the notion that faith is fundamentally about having faith in God's will, the unfolding of divine purpose, and the journey rather than just the destination. For Hagee, this change may be a logical progression that culminates decades of work. As the service came to an end, there was a discernible change in the atmosphere. After years of leading others, he seemed to be grappling with the weight of theological responsibility and now seemed to be seeking something deeper, not just knowledge. Not just knowledge but peace. Perhaps he was making amends with both his congregation and himself by admitting that the search for spiritual truth is never complete, and that there is grace in admitting that no one, no matter how learned or devout, has all the answers. Those who had followed his teachings for years realized that something had changed. It was a profoundly human moment that served as a reminder that even the most steadfast spiritual leaders are on their own journeys of faith, subject to doubt, revelation, and transformation just like everyone else. His expression was calm and introspective, and he simply waved to the crowd, his face illuminated by a quiet sense of fulfillment. For years to come, it was a turning point in their hearts not just for John Hagee but for everyone who had ever grappled with the conflict between faith and certainty. It was evidence that genuine belief is not about steadfastly adhering to every doctrine, but rather about being open to questioning and eventually submitting to the limitless mystery of God's love and wisdom. I continued reading the Bible because I had no other choice, and I hoped it would ease. Pastor John Hagee's at 84, a man who has dedicated his life to teaching biblical certainty and prophecy, has decided to share the mystery of faith with a person of his influence. This change goes beyond personal reflection. It offers profound lessons on faith leadership and the changing nature of belief at Cornerstone Church, where thousands have followed him for decades. His admission caught many off guard, while others saw it as a deeply personal moment that made him more. For those used to Hagee's forceful and unwavering sermons, his words revealed a side of him few had seen before, a more reflective and deeply human perspective. His impact is still strong as many of his followers continue to express their admiration. As one devoted listener shared on YouTube, hearing Pastor admit he doesn't have all the answers brings me comfort. Faith isn't about knowing everything, it's about continuing to trust, even without clear explanations. A young pastor said, John has always been a symbol of religious certainty. His recognition that faith has ambiguities is a major lesson that reminds us, the next generation of leaders, that humility is at the core of service rather than diminishing his image. He has been a true man of God for 25 years. Another said, I love Pastor Hagee. His passion to preach Christ with all his heart is admirable, and his statement resonated beyond his congregation, sparking discussion among religious leaders. Theological scholars have also recognized the importance of this moment, noting that the greatest religious leaders must face uncertainty, a reality that every believer encounters on their spiritual path. One scholar noted that Hagee's words demonstrate theological maturity, demonstrating that he has moved beyond absolute assertions to embrace the complexities of faith. This is a lesson for all of us, as faith is not only about what we know, but also about accepting what we cannot understand. Hagee's words serve as one longtime follower wrote on YouTube, frankly speaking, John Hagee has been my inspiration from my youth. His messages have added value to my life. His admission is not only a pivotal moment for him but also a meaningful message for anyone seeking a deeper understanding of their faith. Indeed, he is the prophet of our time, whose mandate is to divide the word of God correctly to the glory of God. May the Lord continue to bless him. Hagee, the founder of Christians United for Israel, has long been a well-known figure in conservative politics and U.S.-Israel relations. One political analyst asked whether his change in message would affect how political leaders use faith as a tool. Perhaps it serves as a reminder that even the most steadfast icons must struggle with the complexities of the world and their own beliefs. For younger generations, his words offer a fresh perspective on faith during a church service. May the Lord, who called him, bless him, now and forever. Hagee's words serve as a reminder that faith isn't about having control or complete certainty, but rather about searching, questioning, and learning to embrace the unknown. His admission is not only a turning point for him, but it's also a lesson for others. One young attendee shared his words, which made me realize it's okay not to have all the answers. Faith isn't a destination but a journey. Another said this teaches us that even the greatest figures face uncertainty, which makes faith feel more real. Regardless of one's opinion of him, Pastor John Hagee is still one of the most important figures in contemporary Christianity. His writings have influenced innumerable discussions. His sermons have impacted millions of people, and his support for Israel has made him a prominent figure in religious and political circles. However, perhaps his most important lesson is that even those who appear unflappable must face the unknown at some point. Hagee is 84 years old, is one of conviction, controversy, and ultimately humility. And perhaps that is the lesson we've always suspected, that even the most steadfast pillars of faith are fundamentally human. What do you think of Pastor John Hagee's most recent revelation? Does it alter your perspective on his legacy? Please share your thoughts in the comments section below. If you like this video, please remember to hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. And before you go, check out one. You won't want to miss either of the two videos currently playing on your screen. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.